Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 11th Ward Community Zoning Meeting for 3755 South Parnell. It's our second one of the year. I think a few of you were on our first one, so thanks for joining us again. For those of you that have not participated in one of these before, we're going to ask everybody to introduce themselves. We'd just love to know if you are a neighbor, if you are just somebody from the community who wanted to know what was going on at this property. We just like to know the context with which people are joining. So tonight's meeting is on behalf of the Moy family. It is for a zoning change from an RS3 to an RT4 at 3755 South Parnell Avenue. So we'll let the Moys and their attorney Fred go last. So I'll ask everybody to just do a quick introduction, say who you are, sort of why you're on the call, and we'll go from there. So Matt, why don't you start? You're at the top of my screen.
Okay. Hi, I'm a neighbor, live not immediately by the house, but in Bridgeport.
Right. Kathy, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kathy Disney. I'm staff here at the 11th Ward, and zoning is one of my accountabilities. Nancy, you want to go next?
Hi, Nancy. I'm the neighbor. I just wondering what's happening and how the zoning hearing goes. How's the process forward?
Thanks for being here with us. Ling?
Hi, I am a neighbor too, and just wanted to learn more about the zoning as well.
Great. Thanks for joining us. And then Chen, were you on our last call?
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Great.
I'm a resident. I'm a student here to learn.
Okay.
I have
Great.
a duty in Bridgeport, so I'm learning.
Welcome. All right. So Moise, why don't you introduce yourselves again, and then we'll let Fred go.
Hello, everyone. We're the Moy family. My name is Michael. This is my mom. We're glad to be here. Yeah, we have a pretty big family. I'm sorry everyone couldn't be here, but they would all like to be here.
They are working in my
Right.
Everybody's working hard. I get it. So thank you for joining us so that we can have this this community zoning call. So I'm going to hand it over to Fred. Fred, should I start sharing your presentation?
Yeah, if you don't mind. So again, my name is Fred Augustin. I'm the zoning attorney on behalf of the Moy family. Again, you know, as I said earlier, I'd like to thank Alderman Lee as well as her staff for coordinating tonight's meeting. So we're talking about 3755 South Parnell. This is the current view of the property. It's an older single family home. It's really old. It really needs a lot of updating. So if you want to scroll down, Alderman, I believe we have some interior pictures. So this is how it kind of looks in the interior. So as Michael mentioned, the Moy family, it's a big family. So there's a total of 3 boys. And so the plan here is to also tear down this home and build also a 3-story, 3-unit building that will have obviously 3 dwelling units and then 3 on-site parking spaces at the rear. And similar to before, this is going to, again, none of these units will be sold. It'll be purely for the family. It's owner occupied. As I mentioned, they have a total of 4 boys. 3 of the boys will reside in this, in one of the units, basically. So one son will live in one unit, second son will live in another unit, third son will live in another unit. And the ages, they're adults. So ages are 23, 28, and 29. Obviously the goal here is for, you know, the boys do want to remain in the area. They are currently in the area, they rent though. And so the idea behind this is the whole family will be in the area. Mom and dad will, and one of the brothers will live on Emerald, and then the 3 other boys will live at this property. So it's purely a family owned, owner occupied building. None of the units will be sold. And simply what we're doing is we're proposing a 3-story building that will contain 3 units. And in order to do this project, this is a copy of the zoning map right now. we need to rezone it from the current RS3 to an RT4 district. And as you can see from the zoning map, there are other RT4s in the area. And if you want to scroll down a little bit, Alderman, you know, we have, purely is how kind of like the 3 flag would look. Just, we have a front, side elevation, rear porch. And another view of it. This is more of the rear, I believe, and the other side. Site plan, obviously 3 parking spaces at the rear. I don't know what the parking situation is now on the current property. I would bet there's probably not 3 spaces there. So with this, there's going to be 3 spaces located on site. And then the next few pages, they're kind of hard to see, but they're typical floor plans, you know, basically simplex units. There's one will have a basement, access to a basement, so it'll be duplex, but basically it's, and then the second and third floor would be simplex units, 2 bedroom. You know, we're going to try to do 3 bedroom, 2 baths, but right now we're kind of showing 2 bedroom, 2 baths. So, and then I believe we have a picture of a different property, is how they kind of want it to look a little bit in terms of how the proposal would be. So this is not in the ward, I believe, but this is just kind of a typical reflection of what they're looking at. So with that, we're here to answer any questions anyone who's on the Zoom call would like to ask. So with that, we're done. We're done with our presentation.
Thanks for that, Fred. There is a hand up. Ling, please go ahead.
So what is the zoning again for that unit? Is it the standard size city lot, or is it larger than that?
So I believe it's a standard city lot. It's 25 by 125. Currently it's zoned RS3. If you
I
were to
don't know
build
what
just,
that means.
That means it means single family.
yeah, I was gonna get there.
Yeah.
So currently right now in the RS3, based on that lot size, you could only do a single family home. So what the Moy family would like to do is build 3 units here. So in order to do that, they do need a zoning change from the RS3 to the RT4 district. The RT4 district will get them the 3 units they need.
So I had a question. This is Nancy. From the presentation, and you mentioned that the property is not going to be sold. It's going to be purely for residential after it's built. I mean,
Yes.
How does that work with the zoning change? I mean, is there a requirement or a criteria to become part of the zoning? I mean, like current status is like, is there any condition that like it's purely for owner to be occupied for how many years, or just for presentation right now? It doesn't really have restriction, right? The property owner could be changed anytime, right? Or it could be sold individually, right?
Fred, do you want to take this?
Yeah, I mean, so in terms of that specific, that it has to be owner occupied, there's no specific provision that requires that. Per the zoning amendment application, it's purely for 3 units. Having said that, you know, obviously one of the main things for this project is the reason why we're going forward with it is, you know, it's going to be owner occupied. I mean, you know, if it was going to be for sale, I don't know if that's something the community would be supportive of. You know, obviously we'd want to keep it family owned. So there's no way of restricting it, but I could tell you that, you know, this is purely just going to be owner occupied, you know, and, you know, that's the plan. And ideally, that's probably going to be the plan for many years. So I hope that answers your question. To an extent.
So to me, it is like just the justification for the current justification for the property zoning change. It's not like a condition for
No.
the change.
No.
It's not a
Okay.
condition, but as people come and request changes like this is not this is not something that, let's say, a developer is coming in to sell as condos or to rent as rental units. That's
Mm.
not what's been proposed here. And the type of zoning change, this is going to be a type 1 zoning change. So the plans that they're submitting, they can't vary from those. So whatever plans they're discussing with us, they can't decide to change. Oh, I'm going to do a duplex in one unit, and then I'm going to sell one and do the other. I mean, they can't make the changes to the site plans or to the plans that they've submitted for the zoning change. So that is one thing that they'd be locked into. But as Fred said, there's nothing that says at some point, if one of the boys gets married and they have a bunch of kids and they can't live there anymore, that they can't move out. And, life things will happen. I think, the intention of the family is to be able to have a place where the family can stay together.
Yeah.
Ling, do you have another question?
Yeah, my main concern is rentals, right? And where I live is where I'm at right now is actually have rentals, and I do not like it because people come and go, and I really don't know who are these people, especially their rentals, and it just kind of like uncertainty of the safety of the neighborhood. So how are we gonna know that they're not gonna rent it out? Like how is it gonna be? Yeah, right now that's the current plan for the boys, but how are we gonna know that they, one of the units is gonna be a rentals? Like you said, they got
Well,
married, they have kids, and
sure. Yeah. I mean, I think all of those things are possible, Ling. I mean, we're being honest, right? It is possible. I would say that, and I don't want to answer for May and Michael and their family, but I would suspect that if they're building this so that the 3 boys can live together and one of them moves out, there's still going to be family in there. So they're not going to just let anybody move in either. It's going to be owner occupied at that point. So it's not like it's an investment property where anybody's going to, where there's not somebody who's on site all the time and accountable. Frankly, our hope is that the boys have a good relationship with all of you on the street. One of the things that we asked, so let me give you a bit of context. So there's another property that Fred mentioned that we just had another zoning meeting about. It's the other building that Fred mentioned where his parents and one of the other brothers will live. So that on that call, I would say the same thing here. It's really important to me as we have these discussions too, and I think it's important to all of the neighbors, as you're pointing out, is that they have a point of contact, that you have their phone number, so that if you have a question about something that's going on the property, whether or not it's being rented or not, you have a contact with the owner of the property. So, I mean, to answer your question, I understand the concern about renters because there are a lot of buildings in the ward, because we get the calls where there's investors that don't live in the ward, that's not owner occupied, or they live in different states and they don't take care of their properties. And what ends up happening is they let anybody all willy-nilly come in and rent their places and tear the place up, and they're not part of the community, so they don't care as much. I think what the Moys are trying to do here is build something that will be lasting for their family. It looks like they're going to invest a significant amount of money into building these apartments for their own family members. And that's not slumlord material. All right. So it's not going to behoove them for their investment to just, even if one of the sons decides to move out, one or more, to have people that are not good tenants in there. So Michael and May, I mean, I did a lot of talking, but if you want to make a comment on that, please feel free to.
If we spend that much money to build it and do all these things.
It's really hard for us to hear you, May. I'm so sorry. You're not close to the microphone.
Yeah, you need to speak louder a little.
Okay. In order to do the process, just to lock it down, it took me a couple months. Still couldn't find the people to lock it down for me. I was going to do that before the new year. Everything costs a lot. If I'm going to build that, it costs so much. I won't let the tenants to live there. And then some people that I know, they have problem with the tenants. They kick one out, and another one had to kick out. And also, if there's they passed the law for the rental law, rent tenants, something like that, like California or New York. even more trouble with the tenants.
So I think if I heard you correctly, that's everything that you've just said has every indication that you have zero desire to be a landlord. You
Yeah,
want,
it's
okay,
a trouble, you know, you build a brand new home, you don't want other people to live there. And it's not worth the money that we invest.
right.
Yeah.
Ling, does that satisfy your question about the rentals and everything?
You can give me,
Yeah,
you know, how many
Is
years
is
where you
this
could live
meeting
there,
the
you can
same
do
thing
that.
as the last meeting? I missed the first meeting. This is a continuation from the
Well, no,
last?
it's a separate property. So it's the same family that owns both properties. So what they're trying to do is build new homes for their entire family with the two properties that they have, which would mean tearing down an existing structure. One's located at, and you saw that, I think, probably in the newsletter on Emerald. And then this one is located at 3755 Parnell.
Oh, okay. The last meeting, like before.
The one
The
right
new
before
year?
this one, correct?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay, it's not on Parnell. This is the only unit on Parnell
This is the only one on Parnell, correct?
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
asking for. Okay,
But the same family and basically the same concept. It's to build a multi-unit building for family members to live in.
Nicole, can I ask a question? Like,
Sure.
is there going to be like since I mean, like recently we have been getting so many zoning changes for the neighborhood from a single family to a multiple family, and we do see the need for that, right? I mean, like probably that could trend as a need for the family right now, right? I mean, for those new zoning. Do you consider to just do a bold change for all those?
Yeah, Nancy,
Or-
that's a great question. And it
yeah,
is something
why-
that I'm looking at. Because there is a trend of this going on, right? And you're right.
Mhm.
I do think that there is need for some more density in the community in different areas. I think it's got to make sense. So I am working with the planning and development zoning administrator to take a look sort of section by section to see where it makes sense to make a map amendment change so that we're not doing these on like a one-off basis. But that's going to require a little bit more evaluation before we do something like that.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
I hear
because
ya.
I've just seen the Moist family just doing two lots for multiple family unit. Like, why do we need to do that like one by one? And recently getting a lot of all those requests, right? It just
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. So, and it doesn't make sense if we grant the zoning change for this one, but we don't grant the change for a different family requesting the same thing because the justification is just there, right? Everybody has the same need.
Yeah, I mean, and I
Right.
certainly wouldn't view it as like we're doing these on a one-off basis right now because I don't have a basis to make a massive map amendment change to like different blocks. I think I want to carefully consider that a little bit more. And frankly, I think that nobody in my position coming up to an election should be making decisions like that for major changes to a zoning map for the entire ward. But these requests, as they've come in, this is why we're doing these one by one. They're for two different properties, same family, yes. But because two different sets of neighbors too, we wanted to be able to do these separately. So it is obviously it's more expense for the families for sure that own these properties. But I think, we need to take a wider view of the entire ward before we start making map changes. Trust me, what I walked into was a lot of things are curiously zoned single family when they obviously shouldn't be. There are properties along Halsted and 35th that are zoned single family, and they're clearly more commercial type properties. So I think that there are plenty of examples of that. Just know that I'm absolutely thinking the same thing, Nancy. That's definitely something that's on the horizon.
Okay.
Any other questions? Matt, did you have anything?
No questions from me. I think my comments regarding this are the same as the previous one. The family staying in the neighborhood is on balance a positive thing.
Yep. Chen, did you have any questions? Now you've listened to two of these.
No. Probably my question is that for the zoning change, the criteria or consideration is the same for like a rental or for family occupied. If for the zoning change will be the same or probably family
well,
occupied will get a better consideration.
I will, so
Mhm.
without having a little bit more specificity, I don't know that I can answer that reasonably for you. I will tell you that community input and why we have these community meetings is because we want to hear from the people that live in the area, like Ling and Nancy, who have their concerns about rentals and other, what are the intentions of the people that are building, and what are they bringing and adding, because the neighbors live on the street itself, right? They're impacted by whatever is being built or converted or whatever that is. So it matters to them. So it matters to me from a zoning change request perspective, and whether or not something like that will be granted. It matters to me very much what is happening on the street itself, block by block, and what the neighbors' input is. So, it really depends on the situation and on the street and the reputation of the, let's say it's a developer that wants to build like a 10-unit building someplace, like in the middle of this street, that wouldn't probably wouldn't really fit the character of this block itself, but a 10-unit building that fronting a bigger street might. So without having a little bit more context, there's not really a cookie cutter approach to this. This is why we have these meetings, so that we uncover any potential concerns or issues that neighbors will have.
So Nicole, you just bring up a very good point. So how do you find like the character, whether which block is it's a good fit for multifamily, which block is not a good fit for a multifamily? So how do we find justification from that perspective?
Yeah,
that's
I think
something
that,
very interesting.
yeah, no, and I think, Nancy, I'm gonna save we'll get your email address, because maybe you need to be part of our community committee that I'm trying to create different councils to answer just these questions. I would like more community input on just these questions. Now, I will tell you, like, the easy way for me to answer that question is, if your street was nothing but single family homes and there was no multifamilies on your street, I think that would be like a bigger conversation, because then you are then beginning to change the character of that street. Now, if there are single family homes, there are multi-units already that exist, so it's not all that different from what currently exists. So swapping one single family to making it a multifamily doesn't necessarily change the character of the block. That's what I mean by changing the character. And this is why I want to have conversations and evaluation time with the zoning administrator, because they frankly have better experience and knowledge for, where we can make some map amendments potentially to save from doing these on a one-off basis.
So what is the next steps? Like, who will make the decisions? Do we have a say into this?
So this is what this meeting is for. So if you felt strongly, Ling, that you didn't want to see this happen and you have your reasons for that and you've explained that, then I would take that into consideration. So generally, because this is it's a zoning change request, I provide a recommendation, a support or opposition to the zoning change. It goes to the zoning committee of the city. And from the zoning committee, it goes to the city council for final approval. Did I get any of that wrong, Fred? I mean, you are the
No.
guy that knows this better than anybody on this call.
No, and that's correct. Obviously nothing's been filed yet. A zoning amendment application hasn't been filed, and assuming we're able to move forward, that would be the process. So we would file a zoning amendment application. We'd send out notice to neighbors within 250 feet. So Ling, you would get another notice, and then we will have a scheduled hearing before the committee on zoning on the zoning change. And then if the committee approves it, then city council will have to approve it as well.
So here's my concern. Yeah, with the Moy family, I get what you're doing, within the families, and you providing it for the boys, which is great, but So what happened if this is approved, then there will be another one and another one. I mean, is that like a, I guess like a, right, would it be like a lot easier for the next, people that come around? That
Right.
that wanting to do the same type of 3-unit. Because I used to live in the north side and there's all 3 flats. It's hard to find parking in the street. It's hard to, it's just that I moved to the south side because I like the single family homes concept, and there's, it's just more family oriented in the neighborhood. Having, rentals around is not an ideal for me. And I'm just wondering, yeah, I understand the Moy family, and I do, appreciate that, mom and dad is supporting them and having it in the whole family thing. But next one come around, what's gonna happen,
Yeah,
And-
so I think that's a conversation for later, and I will tell you, if I'm still around, then this is exactly why I was saying to Nancy's question earlier too, like, is there an argument to be made that, we need to take a look at different block by block, what the makeup is, because I pulled back up the zoning map, and you can see there's RT4 in and around already that exists today, right? And I tend to think that, closer to a major street is better candidate for a multifamily than like right in the middle of a block. And like I said, in the middle, if there were single family homes, like 5 single family homes on either side of this proposed property, I might think very differently about that, because that to me is changing the character of the street. So, I don't know exactly what is on your street right now, because the reality is that even though something might be zoned RS3 today, it might have been down zoned from something. So there might be a building that's already a 3 flat that is already rental property that has been down zoned to RS3. So if they want to do anything to that building, they have to come back and ask for a zoning change for that to be even legal for them to do work on a building that has always been a 3 flat. And they didn't have any control of it. Maybe the alderman previous to me downzoned a whole block to make sure that they had better controls over what was going on. So I want to assure you, I'm not trying to make massive map amendments. I want to take a look to see where it makes sense. And it may not make sense on your block. And I take very seriously the concerns of everybody on the street like yourself, especially homeowners. So I don't know how much more I can assure you of that. I mean, like, obviously anything can happen in the future. We're going to do everything that we can to maintain good communities. We want people who, I'm very fond of owner occupied spaces because when an owner is present, it's cared for in a very different way than if you are somebody who's investing and you live in Miami. I'm far less interested in situations like that, but we can't necessarily plan for eventualities that we don't know are going to happen in the future.
Okay.
And if I
Thank
could
you.
just add to this, and that's why we're doing these community meetings, and I've done already numerous now with Alderman Lee, and that's why we have these. That's why she has these community meetings to get this community input. And and let's just say for the next project, if the community is not in support, then not to speak for the alderman, but then that's kind of your answer, right?
Yeah, if like 7 people from the block of 10 houses showed up on this call and said we're adamantly opposed to this, that means something. I mean, it would be very difficult for anyone in my position to move forward approving a change like this if everybody on the street were like completely opposed to it. Now, not everybody does this community process with the zoning where we open it up to everybody. And we're very transparent about all this. I'm most interested, especially when people like yourself take the time to come on a call and ask questions and show your concern. It matters to me that you do that. So thank you for being here and for sharing your concerns just about, you've invested, you've laid down roots, you moved from the north side. Thank you. We got one from the north side.
Yes.
I love that. And we want to keep that going. And the reality is that across the ward, we could use a little bit more density. Maybe it doesn't need to be all on your block, But you know, I'm staring across the street from the ward office right now. There's 5 empty lots across the street from me. That's begging for something. And probably not a single family home. So there's places where it makes more sense to have more density and places where it doesn't. And this is not obnoxious, what they're building. It's a 3-story. They're not trying to build up higher than that and, you know, cut it up into 10 different units. And trust me, we've seen some of that here too. So, you know, if there's not any other questions or comments, I do have to get to another meeting. I'm inclined to support this zoning change, this map amendment change to be an RT4 to accommodate what the Moy family wants to build. And I'll put the same ask out here, and Ling, we'll have phone numbers for you for the owners, just so that you have line of contact. I've asked them, as I did on the last call, once they're down the road to having plans and know when they're going to demo the current building and start construction, that they be in communication with neighbors like yourself, just so that you are aware of like when things are progressing, and that you do have somebody that you can call for that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you participating on the call today. Happy New Year. And we'll see you around. If you need anything from the ward, you know where to reach us.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.